Hey, welcome to the Default Profitable Podcast. You're listening to the next episode, and today we're going to focus on what it takes to start, run, and grow a series of businesses. We'll be talking about some successes, some failures, and some stories from a real business owner. I'm your host, Matt Nettleton, and today my guest is Matt Crowder. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So, we really haven't talked, and you've got the second best facial hair of all my guests so far with that handlebar mustache. It's an audio-only podcast, so I can say that. Nobody's going to know what I'm talking about. Why don't you take 2 or 3 minutes, kind of introduce yourself, how you got here, and then introduce your business.
Sure. So, I'm Matt Crowder. How I got here, I started a business in 2019 after knowing for 2 years prior that I was going to lose my position at the job because it was moving to a different state and I didn't want to move with it. So I started a business in 2019, did a complete pivot in 2020 to what I'm doing now, and it's done really well. So what my business is, Mapp Solutions. I guess to say technically, we specialize in providing laser scanning services for architects and general contractors. We use the output from these laser scans to create accurate and thorough CAD drawings, BIM models. BIM stands for Building Information Modeling, and other 3D deliverables to help streamline renovation and construction projects. The simple answer is we take complex spaces and turn them into digital blueprints.
So back up for a second because you kind of skipped over it, but tell me a little bit about, you had a job with a big company, I'm assuming, and they decided They were going to relocate your job to another state.
Yeah.
And rather than find another job with a big company, you for some reason made the decision that you were going to go out on your own with an inconsistent paycheck and no benefits and work for no one else?
Yeah, I mean, that to me, that's the boring part, but I can go into detail if you want. I was working at State Farm as an auto claims adjuster. So I was the guy that investigated accidents, decided who was at fault, what was going to be covered. Really popular guy, by the way.
Yeah.
I sat in a cubicle. I was miserable for 7 years, not because State Farm's a bad company, but because I wasn't built for a cubicle. But beyond that, in 2017, we received word that they were closing the Indianapolis Operations Center and moving it to Atlanta, Dallas, or Phoenix, or Bloomington, Illinois. Bloomington, Illinois sounds boring. Atlanta, Dallas, and Phoenix sound hot, and I don't like hot weather. So I made the decision to take a severance package. And from that point, I started saving up my PTO so I'd have money there as well. In 2018, I was considering whether I was going to go to a different insurance company, which, remember, I was miserable in a cubicle, so I didn't really want to do that. I didn't want to start entry level in some other career. And so, I mean, the only other option was to start a business, and I didn't know what I was going to do at the time. But when 2018 rolled around and I was getting my annual bonus, I was also shopping for a new camera for family vacations. Started looking at the really expensive ones, and I'm like, oh, I wish I could justify one of those. So I asked my wife if I could spend my $6,000 bonus on photography equipment and learn how to take photos and make a business out of it. And she's like, sure, hon. So that's where we started. And that's the business I started in 2018 was a commercial photography business.
So 2018, you're sitting there, you've got your PTO, you've got your severance, and you've got $6,000 of commercial equipment. But give me kind of the trajectory. How did it start? What were the first 3 months like?
Sure. So I just started reaching out and networking. I went to a couple of networking groups, but I really started reaching out to digital marketing agencies. I always find it better when people sell my product for me. So I reached out to digital marketing agencies so they could sell me to their clients, headshots and product photography and, whatever else. And that was doing okay. I mean, it wasn't blowing up or anything like that, but it was doing okay. And then March 2020 rolled around and I didn't have any business. I don't think a lot of people had any business. So
when you started the business, did you have a passion for photography? Is that kind of how you got there?
I like looking at photographs. So, I mean, I guess, I love looking at photography. My dad was a hobbyist photographer. Yeah. And I could appreciate good photography. So I think I had a little bit of a passion there, not necessarily for doing it, but for seeing it. And I just decided to go ahead and create what I wanted to see.
And then rather than sell it, you decided to let other people sell it. Tell me about that decision.
Sure. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. I still sold it a little bit, but I didn't want to go into consumer photography, like senior photos, family photos, and stuff like that. It's just, that seems like a lot of work. And I don't know if I had a sales team that worked for me, So I could go out to these digital marketing agencies, show them my product. And of course, when they're creating websites or creating marketing, they need content, they need creatives. It's best if you have something that looks professional and not something that looks like it was taken from an iPhone, unless that's part of your brand, in which case, great. But for, a lot of people need professional photos, and I could reach more people faster by having a sales force of people that were referring me to their own clients.
For most people, the idea of selling is repulsive. Right?
I don't see why.
I got into adulthood selling vacuum cleaners door to door, so it's never really been an issue for me. I don't understand.
Sure.
But Lorraine Ball early on said, "You're never in the business that you think you're in. You're in the business. You're in the selling of the business that you think you're in."
Sure.
So you're not a photographer. You're selling photography. You're not whatever you're doing. Even 3D mapping. You're not 3D mapping. You're in the business of selling 3D mapping. You got to get people that'll pay you, or else you don't have a business.
Makes sense.
But the genius of getting other people to do the thing is really kind of impressive. So how did you come up with that plan? What would, I guess when you started the digital marketing business, did you start with a business plan?
You mean when I started the photography business?
Yeah, when you started the photography business.
My plan was really simple. Go out, find clients, and spend less than I was making. I'm not a business prodigy by any stretch of the imagination, but it seemed like a good plan to me.
It's a fantastic plan. In fact, I wish more people came to me with a business plan that was based in common sense like that, rather than we're just hoping things work out. So you really didn't put together any type of business plan, but you had saved money from the severance and the PTO.
Mm-hmm.
What sort of things did you learn when you started that business?
Oh, so much. Okay, so I learned the hard way how important it is to build processes, especially processes that can scale with your business as they get bigger. So like I said, my business plan was really simple. So I had no processes in place. And I learned all of this the hard way, being able to keep track of customers, when I'm following up with customers, all the processes that you need to run a nice, reliable, consistent, high quality business. I think reliability in and of itself is a superpower nowadays. A lot of people, if they don't have processes, they're not reliable and you're going to lose business. So I learned that really fast. I also learned how much time and effort it takes to build relationships in the industry. It's not just about photography skills or laser scanning skills. It's about, making friends with people that are going to eventually want to refer you to their clients or to their friends. So those are probably the two most important things that I learned when I started.
Then COVID hit.
Yeah.
Right. So you kind of, you're 24 months in, you've been kind of chugging along. It sounds like you were spending less than you were bringing in.
Yeah.
You had enough people sending you business that you could scale a little bit. What did you learn when that happened?
Learned how to adapt very quickly. What I did was, at the time when I realized I didn't have any business, I went ahead and spent money on a higher end 360 virtual tour camera. I'm thinking if people can't visit places, a lot of places are going to want to bring their place to the customer. And it worked. It actually reached out to my same network of digital marketing agencies. And one of the first jobs I got for this new virtual tour service that I was offering was to go and create a virtual tour for Johnson Memorial Hospital down in Franklin, Indiana. And there was another hospital, I think it was Marion Hospital up in Marion, Indiana.
Okay.
Both of those, back then, hospitals were not allowing any guests in the hospital whatsoever, but women who were expecting like to visit the maternity ward where they're going to be, like to take a tour before they give birth to know where they're going to be giving birth, what it's like, so on and so forth. They weren't allowed to do that at the time. So I was able to make a virtual tour and show the nurses how to give a virtual tour of the facility over a Zoom call and show them around and stuff like that. And that was a lot more lucrative than I ever could have imagined. So that kind of got me started towards the laser scanning path. That was like my first small pivot in my business. I learned so I guess to answer your question, I learned that being adaptable is invaluable. There's nothing better than being able to adapt to changing situations.
And then how did you scale the 3D laser mapping business? What did you come up with a plan, or was it the same? I just got to figure out how to make more than I spend.
I was becoming curious as to how this high-end the high-end virtual tour camera was stitching the tour together in real time by recognizing where it was previously, and in real time on the iPad, it would stitch the tour together. I'm like, how is it knowing that? So I started to learn about structured light and laser scanning, and how laser scanning can recognize 3D environments. And I started to think, how else can I use this? Besides just what people are currently using it for, because that market is saturated. How else can I use this in a way that's not being used? So I started seeing how architects, for example, when they're hired to redesign a building for renovation purposes, they need drawings of what's currently there to know where to begin. And a lot of times those drawings are lost, or they don't exist anymore, or something like that. So they can go out and hand measure and write it out on graph paper, and then go back and model it and realize they made a mistake and go back out to field verify and all this other stuff. I could go out there and laser scan it, which gives accurate measurements, and create a model for them. I did a little bit of research online, found that there was one other company at the time in Indiana that was doing that. And I'm thinking to myself, that's not a whole lot of competition. They're going after the big dogs. I can go after some smaller architectural firms. And yeah, so what I did is I started reaching out to architects on LinkedIn. And because it was COVID and because they were at home, they actually gave me the time of day. I addressed it like, hey, I'm thinking about starting this kind of business. Will you talk to me for 30 minutes? And some of them were like, sure. I got ignored by a lot, but some of them were like, sure. So I had conversations with them. I said, if I did this, I did that. And what would you need from me? And what would you expect from me? And how could I provide value to you? Got those answers. I ended up investing in a $25,000 laser scanner in January of 2021.
Okay.
Without any promises of having clients, just knowing that I've had enough conversations that I could eventually sell that service. And I got my first job from one of those clients I had reached out to on LinkedIn in February of 2021. So within a month, I had my first client. And since then, business has doubled just about in revenue just about every single year.
Okay. So at that point, you were a solopreneur. Are you still alone, or do you now have a staff of people that can sell for you and do things for you?
I now have a small staff. So I have a full-time project manager. I have a part-time virtual administrative assistant. And then I have an entire army of subcontractors across the country.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So as you look back, right, this is kind of version 2 of you as a business owner.
Mm-hmm.
You did some things way better the second time, but what are some of the things that you learned that you didn't expect to learn the second time you started a business?
How important it is to research your market.
Okay.
I mean, when I was reaching out to those architects on LinkedIn and getting information from them about how I could provide value was a way smarter approach than buying a camera and like, oh yeah, I'll just take pictures of people and they'll love it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Having a clear plan of what I'm going to do step by step, like, here I'm going to start with this $25,000 laser scanner. I'm going to get to where I have this much business, and then I'm going to invest in the next layer, next level up that will speed up and make my process more efficient. And so having a plan is super helpful. And I feel that being fully committed and focused on one particular thing or just a very small amount of things is way better than trying to do a bunch of different things. Like I back in the day, I was thinking, I need to reach out to everybody. I need to cast a wide net, and that way I can capture as much business as possible. It's just the opposite. The more you niche, the more you focus on one particular thing, the better you get, the more credible you are, and the more people will hire you. So that's probably the most valuable thing that I learned.
So it's funny because one of the things that I struggle with when I work with clients is getting them to say no to things that aren't directly related to what they're trying to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
It is very easy to come up with stories about how this, but wait, you don't understand, this other thing could be good too.
Yeah, right.
And it sounds like you figured out on your own how to avoid that problem.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate that I learned that early enough, and it's really paid off.
Perfect. All right. So if 2024 or 20, I guess we're now in 2025. If 2025 Matt could go back and talk to 2020 Matt, right? Pandemic's just shut. Now you have no business. There's a million different things you could do. You're not sure where to go. but you have this one idea, I could do this thing. What would be the first thing that you would concentrate on? Like if I'm starting a new business, what's the first thing I do? I mean, I can do a million things, but what's the one thing that I do?
Depending on the type of business, but I would imagine this would be pertinent to most businesses, is to learn how to build valuable relationships. So I think the relationships are probably one of the most important parts of my business. So relationships with my clients, relationships with other people in the industry. You've heard the old saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And that seems cliche, but it is so incredibly true.
Yeah. All right. Here's a question for you. You get one of your buddies that, lives in Indy, works for a big company, finds out their job is being eliminated, and they say, hey, I think I'm going to start my own business instead of moving. How do you respond to that? How do you handle that conversation?
That's a tough one. I don't recommend starting a business for everyone. I mean, if you're a person that likes structure and likes and prefers to be told what to do and how to do it, starting a business is not for you. If you're a person who is very adverse to risk, starting a business is not for you. So I guess I would have a conversation with them about how well they perform with complete autonomy. I would have a conversation with them about how financially secure they are if nothing happens for the first 6 months to 12 months. I would find out if they're comfortable with growing slowly, because in my opinion, that's probably one of the best ways to grow. It's more solid. I would probably ask them a bunch of questions along those lines, and then give them advice from there.
All right.
Owning a business is hard.
You wouldn't just tell them to go for it?
No, I wouldn't. If I'm being honest,
it is truly not for everybody. It can be rewarding, but it's not for everybody.
And if I really cared about you, I'd have a conversation with you first before I told you to go for it, because then you're going to hate me afterwards if it doesn't work out.
Well, if I tell you to go for it, you're going to blame it on me if it doesn't go right.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. You've been a business owner now for, well, really full-time 7 years, although it looks like you've had some other dabbling before that even. But what other advice would you have for somebody who's thinking about or has just started their business? Any other bits you would drop on them?
I think it would really depend on what kind of business they have, but I would definitely recommend that while they're building their business, don't stop teaching yourself. Don't stop teaching yourself how to sell. Don't stop teaching yourself how to do what you're doing, whatever path or product it is that you're offering. Continuing education is really, really important. And I think when a lot of people get stressed out starting a new business, they kind of put that off to the side because it's not that important. But I think that continuing education is very important, because just because you're stationary in your learning process while you're trying to focus on building a business, the world is still evolving and you need to keep up with that.
Yeah.
So you need to keep learning, keep educating yourself. That's probably besides the advice I've already given, that's probably the last piece of advice I haven't thought of yet.
With that in mind, I mean, obviously you made the jump from the $6,000 camera to the $25,000 laser tool. What's next? Where do we go? I mean, does AI impact your world?
AI sure helps me brainstorm a lot for different things. They are coming out with some AI plugins for some of the software we use that can help recognize certain things off of the data the laser scanner brings in, like walls, doors, ceiling, windows, floors, and begin the modeling process, whereas before that was a completely human thing. So it can definitely speed up the process. None of those are perfect yet, so they're still in process, but I can imagine that AI is going to make an impact here sometime in the near future.
All right. Well, I'm going to remind everybody that if they want more information about what you do or how you do it, they can go to defaultprofitable.com, look at the show notes. There'll be information about you, connection links. If you're listening to the show, there's 3 ways you can help us. Leave a review on whatever platform you listen, hit subscribe, or find an episode like this that you like and share it with somebody else you think would benefit. Matt, I want to thank you for being a guest. That's a quick 21 minutes.
Thank you.
And for the people that are listening, we'll be back next week with another episode of Default Profitable. Until then, stay focused, keep working, stay profitable.